on this episode of the Data Nerd Podcast.
Like when you go need a haircut and your hair is getting long, do you think, shoot, I need to go get a full-time barber? Like, no, of
You,
course you don't, right?
you
You
don't,
share
yeah.
that cost with people in your community. You're not in the business of cutting hair, so you don't need someone full-time. You need
So
the
let's
support.
let's work with that analogy. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a comment wherever you listen. And for all episodes, plus exclusive merch like the Data Nerd hat, head over to the datanerdpodcast.com. On this episode, I'm joined by Mikhail Christiansen, CEO of Swift Insights. You can find them at swiftinsights.net.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
it's a wild world.
I
I know
know.
that the way that things progressed from like before cell phones were something that everybody had, and an email was something that everybody had. Um, there was a different level of expectation of work, right? Your work had to happen at work. And then once cell phones and emails and everything became available, all of a sudden you're available all the time. And your
Yeah.
boss could reach out to you at any moment, right? And did you see the email that went out at 7 o'clock last night? Like no one would have ever asked you that before. Like, hey, did you hear about
Yeah.
the meeting that you had already left that day for? Right. So there was a different expectation of load. And I think also with Google, there was an expectation of knowledge and understanding that you would not have had before. And same thing with YouTube, I think. But I think AI now is going to even increase that more, that it is super helpful to be able to dive into more information and understand things quickly. But I'm a little bit worried about the expectations of the average individual, and the productivity level that will be expected of them, in the future.
Do
Like at
you
some point,
think,
just you're going to crash.
well, do you feel that, are you worried because they may not have been trained how to do the work themselves and they're so dependent on AI
So
that even I have been able to
yeah,
have been working before AI or the AI tools, and so we kind of know, how to do the work even if we don't have the tool.
I think this is an interesting question. So one part of that, I think, it is really important to question AI more than people do. And I'm reminded of this when I ask it something that I know. Um, and I'm just looking for like a little bit more information on it or something, and it brings me something back, and it's like, that is garbage. Like you're not anywhere close to what the actual answer is, because I do know what the answer is in this case.
Yeah.
And so when you ask it something that you don't know, which is how a lot of people use it, or like,
Yeah.
give me this line of code or create a website that does this, you are relying on it to fill gaps and information and knowledge that you're hinting at, like we don't have. And so you can't fact check, or like you don't think to fact check. You can fact check, but you don't think to fact check it because you don't know. Right. And so
That
then you
you
just
need that
accept
baseline
everything.
knowledge. You still need the baseline
Yeah.
knowledge, right? So,
So I only realize how bad AI is when it's something that I know. And I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
yeah, that quality is not good. I need to realize that that quality is happening everywhere and make sure I'm more careful about it.
100%. I'll give you an example this morning. So I'm having my coffee right now, right? But what happened this morning was I spilled my coffee this morning while, while I was drinking. And what I was doing, I was multitasking, and my remote control for my TV, I had to get a new one, and then I had to sync it to my TV. And so I asked ChatGPT how to do it. I'm like, why not? It give me the answer. And in that process, I spilled my coffee. But besides the point, um, I it gave me the answer. I took a picture of the remote, But and then I did what it was telling me to do, and it wasn't working. And then it said, "Oh, it's because you may have to charge the battery." I'm like, "What do you mean by charge battery?" It just and I looked at the back and like it has an actual physical battery, and that was the reason why I had to put the battery in. And then I told it that this does not have a charged battery. It's an actual physical battery you have to put in. They're like, "Oh yes, you're right. This is a different model, blah blah blah." So um makes mistakes, right? It's
Yeah,
great, but like
yeah,
it happens more often than than
much more
you
often.
think, right? Which I don't know, it could be dangerous sometimes.
Yes. And I think, like you said about the what does that mean for people who never had the certain skill set is the way that I find AI the most useful right now in the current moment, and that could change. I'm not someone who thinks like AI is going to replace everything yet, or that like it's completely pointless. I don't need to keep up to date on it. Like somewhere in the middle is probably a pretty safe spot right now. But the way that I find AI extremely useful is bringing up the weak points, right? Because AI by definition is like to the mean, right?
Mhm.
I'm not usually producing something in AI that's like expert level out
Right.
there. So that's kind of the scare of like if there's an expectation that you will provide a really high quality something based off of AI, that's going to be tough. But for example, when a client asks me like, I need a Tableau developer. Okay, like I understand that for a client, that is one thing. But in my mind, a Tableau developer needs a lot of different skills depending on what you want them to do, right?
Yeah.
Do you need someone who understands business and knows how to ask questions to pull out the requirements and
Right.
understand what a business actually wants, right? That's a certain skill set.
Hmm.
Is it someone that's actually pulling data sets together and providing control numbers and modeling the data before it gets into Tableau so that it optimizes perfectly when it gets there? Is it someone who understands user experience and user interface so who can build a dashboard that people will actually want to use and that looks beautiful and is appealing? Is it someone that is just deep expertise in Tableau and the tool itself that will be able to unleash the full power of it and use all of its best features? Those are all way different skill sets, and some of them are very like I have not met many data engineers who love designing or designers who are like, man, I love this coding
There's
stuff.
two
Like
different skill sets.
they're
Yeah.
different skill sets. And
Yeah.
so I think though that I can ask for a all-around Tableau developer and expect them to use AI to lift up the pieces where they're weak. And that's how I think we're utilizing a lot for us is we're using it to build out tools and processes that might not be natural to people that are weak in those areas.
Right.
Um,
So this is a good
yeah,
segue. This is a good segue into our topic. And we were going back and forth about what we want to talk about
yeah.
today, right? And we came to the consensus on, talking about building data teams. And your take on it is that we should not build data teams. Can you get into that? Why should we not build data teams?
I don't necessarily think we should not build data teams, but I think that we should be much wiser about choosing if we do that. And
Hmm.
a very simple analogy to kind of lead into that is because right now, I think if you are a growing company and you're told or you realize that I need to upgrade my analytics structure, my options are to build that structure myself from scratch, everything. The the place something to grab all of my data where it's at and pull it out of those tools,
Hmm.
a place to then centralize and build a data lake or data warehouse and infrastructure around it where it's centralized single source of truth and the data now actually plays together so that we can then also implement a tool to report on that data and get what the business actually only wants is the insights to be a more data driven business.
Hmm.
Um, and then you could fine tune it and use tools like DBT or other things to make sure you're doing all those processes even better, right? But it's a lot of tools. Um, it's a really heavy lift. And yeah, it's one way to go about it.
Hmm.
Or like, wow, if that seems like a lot, you could just buy an environment and they provide a lot of that infrastructure for you. And then you've got the tools that you need that can sort of solve all the things, and but you still need people to do that. And that's like every vendor when they're trying to sell their tool, like, and they're providing these costs of like build it yourself versus buy it from us. Like that's the thing that's left out. But even in a basic setup, you're going to need a couple data engineers, like somebody who can pull the data out, somebody who can organize it and create something, the centralized storage, and then
Mhm.
you need a at least a BI developer to create reports of whatever tool, right? That takes time. It's expensive just in hiring, and then it's probably 500,000 in headcount based on current salaries before you've even built a single report or have a single insight back on your business. So all of that to say that I think those are the two choices that most people are thinking through. It's like all that I see out there.
Mhm.
And I think there's a third option, which is managed analytics. And I will talk a bit about that. But for me, it's like how many people have their own barber? Like when you go need a haircut and your hair is getting long, do you think, shoot, I need to go get a full-time barber? Like, no, of
You,
course you
you,
don't, right?
you
You
don't,
share
yeah.
that cost with people in your community because it's way smarter to do that. You're not in the business of cutting hair, so you don't need someone full-time. You
So
need the support.
let's work with that analogy. I have a barber. He's not somebody I hire full time, but I feel like he's my barber because I always go to him. I text him whenever I need an appointment, and he'll make
Yeah.
time for me to when I need to go see him. What he does outside of that time with me is, up to him. But when I need that service, when I need the cut, he's available to me, and I'll get it, and I'll always use him. I'll always go back to him.
Yeah.
Is that a similar analogy that you're trying to draw here with managed analytics?
That's right. So instead of, see, I think a couple things are important there, right?
Mm.
You go to the same guy back over and over again. He knows you. You walk in and he doesn't ask you, what do you want? He
Yeah,
knows what you want, right? And you sit
yeah,
down and you get it done. And you know the level of expertise you're getting, right? What about if he moves, all right, far, far away, and you got to start that process all over again?
yeah,
That's uncomfortable, right?
right.
Right? There's the search. There's the going and trying two or three different people over a certain amount of time, and the first one doesn't work out, and so on and so forth, right? So in a managed analytics environment, I think there's a few things that you're getting that are really important and why it could be a good option. One is you are guaranteeing yourself experts. People who do this all the time are really good at it, and this is what they've been doing for years and years and years in this kind of capacity. Um, and that's being verified by us, by a third party. You're getting, or whoever's setting it up, you're getting an environment that's already built on best practices. And that I cannot emphasize how important that is, because when you build it out yourself, there is a ton of research. You've got to find out which is the best tool.
Mm.
If your version of your LLM tells you something different than the next executive, now you guys have to debate over which is the right tool, so that you can actually get it procured. That takes a lot of time. Then once you get all of those three tools, like a tool to pull it out, a tool to store it, and a tool to visualize it, you got to go hire the people. And you got to hope that the people that you get are good, and that you got to hope that they set it up on best practices so that there's no leaks, there's no problems, right? And I think a lot of companies have gone through that process and experienced, oh wow, like the person that we had before, they did not know what they were doing in that tool. Or
Mm.
we brought in a company to help us implement it, and they were stretching on their capabilities. They knew one tool really well, but they were stretching to solve the second one. And everybody hates that tool now because it was done poorly. And also to mention, like, the licenses, the vendor relationship, the account executive from that vendor who's reaching out to you and like, hey, I'm the new person on your account. Just wanted to chat, see what your business needs are, right? Like even from the tools that I love that we use, I hate those emails and I try to avoid them like the plague. So right? In a managed analytics environment, you've got best practices, you've got tools set up in a couple weeks instead of months or a year to build out your own. You've got experts that come in and help solve those things. And you're getting right to the only thing that as an executive you actually care about, which is the insights.
So you're saying the turnaround time is faster if you're
Turnaround time
comparing.
is significantly faster and significantly cheaper. Yeah.
Okay, but what makes it faster? So I'm comparing hiring consultants versus managed analytics.
Yeah.
What is it with managed analytics that makes that turnaround time faster than hiring consultants?
Because in managed analytics, the environment is already set up. You're just adding your data into it. So your data, we plug in, right, the tools into your specific data sources to suck it out and put it into an already set up environment
Hmm.
so that you don't have to research, procure, or implement. You're just building out your version of the dashboard,
Wh-
customizing templates that are already available.
Yeah, whereas the consultants are essentially doing the work that you are going to do, and they're exploring the options and then trying to build that internally for your team to then hand off to you once the project's done, right?
Right. Right.
So, but
And
okay,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead. I
I
have a
was going to
question.
say,
Go ahead.
and um, I've lived in consulting, right? Some companies are great, some companies are not. And you hope you get a really good partner, but at the end of the day, like that partner is a, a they're coming in to do a project and to leave. And if they leave it in a not so perfectly set up but kind of masked position, that's okay because they're gone and done, and they got their thumbs up and they moved on to their next project and made their money. Um, it's not meant to be a long-term relationship. So there's a different level of involvement and incentive to do it right because they get to walk away from it, but you do not.
Okay, but then in a managed analytics uh, solution, are you are if I am the client here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hiring you for the managed analytics solution. Am I having this long-term solution and do the expertise live on your team? Am I not able to to do that work myself?
You are able to do the work yourself if you would like, and we will help you with that if that's what you decide down the road. But initially, what we're saying is, again, going back to the barber, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to need a barber forever, hopefully. Like, I don't want to lose my hair. So, like, if the day that I don't need a barber, it's actually a bigger problem, right? Then, so,
That's
but
true.
I hope that I need them for a long term. Um, but it's not like I get to a point where I'm like, okay, it's been really good having this barber. I really like exactly how he does everything. He's super convenient, super available. But I've decided now I need a full-time barber. Like my hair needs to get cut way more often now. And
Or
so
what people did during COVID when they couldn't go to the barber, they start cutting their hair themselves and they realize they can't do the job.
they can't do it. Yeah. It's not as easy as it seems. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So I think there are certain people, and I say this. I've lost clients in conversations with them, and I'm okay because I think there are certain arrangements or certain people it doesn't fit for. Like if analytics is what you sell, that's your product. This is probably not a fit for you. You need to own your environment, right?
Right.
If you're highly regulated, like healthcare, like
Yeah.
to your point about CVS, right?
Yeah.
If you're in that kind of an environment, you probably are best off owning your data, right? Especially with all the scares and leaks and things that have happened lately. So that's a different story. I would push clients away. We could support them in a consulting role and setting it up, but I wouldn't recommend that they walk into a managed analytics environment. But for a
What about the
client where,
size? What about the size
yeah,
of your team? Does that play a factor?
what team? It depends. Like,
Like
what team?
large, if I have a large analytics team compared to a small team or a large business compared to a
So those are
mid-sized to
two
small business.
different things, right? That's why I was clarifying because if you've got a really large analytics team, you've probably already got an environment set up,
That's true.
and then
Yeah.
there's no reason to be in a managed analytics one, right?
Yeah.
But you can be a very large company. I regularly run into companies between 10 to 50 million who are still living in a prehistoric analytics environment and
Are you saying
realize it.
Excel?
It could be Excel, yeah.
Okay.
And realizing that they need to upgrade and join the rest of the world or have more insight. I think the biggest one is having more holistic picture, right? We've
Yeah.
got HR set up over here, finance set up over here, sales is over here, marketing's in this tool, and every department knows how they are doing, but nobody knows how the company is doing. And to answer questions that every business should be able to answer, simple things like, is the money that we spend in finance on our marketing campaigns leading to leads that turn into clients? And if so, how much money do those clients bring in? Like, that's a fundamental question. Nothing that's like, we're
Yeah.
advanced, so we can answer that now. It's like, that's something everybody needs to know, but it's really hard for most businesses to answer that because of the disparate data sources where all that data is located. And you realize that we need to be able to answer that. We need to centralize these things. And it's when you get to that point or those questions that then you start evaluating. So a large analytics team, yes, that's probably not a fit because you've probably already got something else up.
Mm.
But a large company or a large team doesn't necessarily mean you wouldn't need this. And going back to your original question, so the evaluation is, again, is this what we're selling? Are we selling analytics or are we super highly regulated and therefore we can't put it anywhere except for in our own environment?
Hmm.
But we, you can scale your environment or scale your company and with the assistance of our analytics system without ever needing to build out the analytics team or without ever needing to bring that in-house. You still have the barber serving you whenever you need it, but I just don't have them full time.
Okay, I understand that. So let me bring up another point here. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
let's suppose I do want to build like my own team, and it takes me, I don't know, 12 months to do that.
Mhm.
Maybe I see that as an investment. That it's going to take time to build out because we're doing it the right way, and then we're going to own that ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, we won't get to the insights that we need on day one. It'll take time to do that, but sometimes speed isn't always a solution, and you have to do things the proper way.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're losing with managed analytics, or are you saying that you've already, like, if I'm going from A to Z, you're already halfway there with the managed analytics solution? Um, or
Not
and
halfway.
is it a
Yeah.
one size fits all type of scenario?
Yeah, so you're not halfway there. You're way further than halfway because the environment is already set up. It's literally plugging your data into that environment and customizing the pieces you need customized. Um, and some of that is included in the subscription to the environment, and some of that will be extra depending on how much customization you need, right? How many dashboards, how many, and do the templates fit versus something you want yourself? How many data sources are you bringing in, and we need to combine them and make them speak to each other, right? So that question is hard to answer depending on the business,
Mm.
but you're way further along than halfway because you've already got the team, you've already got the tools, you've already got your data. It's just fine tuning it. Um, so two things in this case: people can build out an internal team. Um, and that might be something that they decide. And if that's what they decide, that's okay. I think that, like I said, I think there are 100% reasons to do that, depending on high regulation, and that's what you sell.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's also highly risky too, because I mean, anyone who's done hiring has had bad hires,
Oh yeah.
and that could mess you up. And it takes a long time to do that. It's hard to let people go once you've had a bad hire, right? So there's some risk into if this is new to us, do we actually trust ourselves to hire out a good team? Who is going to lead that team? That's another hire or CFO or somebody taking over or something that's not naturally theirs. Um, and then we hire, we build it out. Okay. So at the bare minimum, we have like let's say three people, which is the two engineers and the BI developer. That's not someone to lead them, and that's not any tools. So there's like 500,000 in headcount each year. That's not going away. That's an investment that keeps on coming
Yeah.
at you, right?
Yeah.
And there's growing benefits and desires for increased compensation, so that salary is not likely to stay put either. And then you talked about, oh, and then there's the cost of the tools. There's the cost of the changing licenses. There's the risk of our vendor going out of business or telling us that they're changing the way they do things and it doesn't fit with our environment. And now we've got to reload.
Mm.
That's all a cost that's now on you because it's your environment. And then another note you talked about was the speed, right? We're okay waiting a year or whatever it is to build this out.
Hmm.
That is something that I think has always been hard for any executive to be like, I need data now. We need to upgrade our ability to make data-driven decisions, but I'm okay waiting for a year for it to happen. Like I think that's a hard thing to do, and I think it's going to become more and more difficult with AI because
I was just gonna bring
yeah,
that up. That was exactly what I was thinking, because now executives are looking at the big shiny tool, and what's the big shiny tool right now? It's AI, and they're like, oh,
yes,
let's just sprinkle AI on what we have. But if you're not set up in a way to leverage AI, right, it's not going to work. It's not a
no.
solution, right?
That's why 90% of AI projects fail, and why right now, if you go look at California or investment areas and what they're investing in, it used to be that anything that had AI written in it was like, yes, invest and throw all this money at, and it's valued at way more than it would anywhere else. Now it's the investment is in the infrastructure to support AI. And those things, if that's what your company does, is it provides infrastructure or cleans up the data. Now we're talking crazy investment because I think we finally realized, which something we've known forever, is that that matters. When I started out in consulting just out of school, and we're trying to decide, okay, where in this consulting firm do you want to land and grow your career? I was like, anything but information management. I would rather be sold as a slave than be in information management. It's the most boring thing I could possibly think of doing.
Mhm.
And now we're 15 years later, and it's the same thing as the most important piece, right? It
Yeah,
always is going to be.
yeah.
And so, yes, I want AI. I want it now. I want what our competitor is doing. And I'm not going to wait a year, year and a half to start competing at that level.
But
That's risky.
who owns the infrastructure in this situation?
We do. We take that risk, right? We take that
We
case.
meaning the managed
The managed
solution.
analytics, yeah, sorry, the
Yeah.
managed analytics company owns that. They take all the risk for that. You again, some executives. I've done this for a long time. I have rarely heard an executive be like, "We do XYZ. We're a manufacturing company, and I really want to own my data environment. I really like the pipelines.
Yeah.
I want to define them." Like they
Mhm.
no, right? No, it's the same thing with the AI. Like I don't want the clean data. Like I want the AI, the fancy shiny thing.
But is there risk? Like, I mean, why? There's a reason why people want to own the infrastructure, right? Are
Tell me
there,
why. Why do people want to own the infrastructure?
I don't know, it's like owning a house versus renting a house. Why do people want to own the house?
Oh, that's a great question. I think some people are less and less wanting to do that, but the house at some point is paid off and you sell it. But you're not going to pay off your data environment and sell it to someone, right? I think it's
Yeah,
a different. It's not a
it's a different
good analogy.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cost. I think that you
Control.
control, definitely. Like I said, if you live in an environment where you need control, that makes sense to me. I think most environments, most industries don't require control, and they just think it's the only option. If if uh, if control was so important to the majority of companies, there would be no products like Domo or Sigma or ThoughtSpot or things that give you an environment. Because when you purchase one of those tools, you've
Hmm.
You're not setting up your own environment. Like that's what you're buying is the environment. Those tools are crazy. I mean, they're big companies. They're not little small one-offs, right? So there's a lot of people that don't care about the control, but there are some for sure. It's not a fit for everybody, but it's an option for a lot more people than they realize.
But maybe it's just the data that they want control over, not the solution.
Their data's they still own their data. We don't own their data. Their data still sits in their systems. We're just piping it somewhere where it can be centralized. They can get a holistic view of what's going on in their company and insights or a dashboard or a way to do that. But the data is still theirs. And the other thing too that is a whole other topic, so I will just be very, very brief on it because
Mm.
otherwise it'll derail this conversation. But also, as part of this environment, they get an MDM, so a master data management system, something that cleans, deduplicates, and prepares their data for AI, for the bolt-ons, for the dashboards, for things that make it now super simple to do the things that are the reasons why a lot of these things fail.
Is that
And
different? Is that different than cleaning your data for use with, I don't know, a business intelligence tool? Is that a different
yeah,
requirements and process? Yeah.
so an MDM does that cleaning, deduplication, and hygiene and identifying issues and risks for you, like any good MDM does. You can go through and identify those things, but that's a long and continuous process and a lot of hour. Like there's a reason why there's a tool and everybody just doesn't do it manually. Um, it's been a product in the past that's only been available to large enterprises because MDMs are very expensive and take a lot of work to set up, install, and see a return on. Again, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but that's doing all that work yourself. I mean, it will make sense for some, but it's a continuous investment that never is like, I've paid it off and now I can sell it. I own it and piece of cake. And now the cost is going to be so much lower.
But it's the same process, or the same type of work that you would do in preparing your data for a, like if you're using Tableau, right? You need to massage the data into a way and try like Tableau has its own solutions, right? Tableau Prep or some people use Alteryx, right? Is that a similar comparable?
No, Tableau Prep is not an MDM. Tableau Prep is a way to um, restructure your data, maybe to clean a
Mhm.
specific data set right before it goes out. But um, it's not a way to deduplicate, clean, and make easily accessible across systems at scale.
Right,
It's per this data set that's going into Tableau.
right.
And if you think about Tableau Prep, so it used to be in Tableau Prep, like I would pull it down from my data source, whatever that might be, clean it, and then publish it as a data source that can be used by Tableau. Then there became an option of I can pull it out of a system, change it, and then push it back into that system, right? And that, like, I pull it out of some SQL database, clean it, and push it
Hmm.
back into SQL, right?
Hmm.
But I'm not rewriting the table of where it came from. Right? We've cleaned up, we created a clean version, and we'll connect Tableau to that clean version. Is that kind of your understanding of that usual flow?
Yes,
So the underlying data is still a mess.
right.
And the
So
what we
you're
did,
fixing the underlying data then.
we're fixing, well, it's not just fixing the underlying data. The underlying data can, I mean, we can push it back into your system cleaned,
Hmm.
but it also could just you can still keep the data that way and it will be go through this process and be cleaned, but now it's usable at scale for anything. With the Tableau example, the next time I need a Tableau report, maybe I didn't need to also pivot it, or I didn't need to change the way that this was looking. I have different needs, and so I need to reset up that process. It's
Mm.
definitely not it's very, very different tool. It would be like I created a chart one time. I drew out a chart on a piece of paper. Is that the same thing as Tableau? Like, no, no, no. We're talking way different scale of what Tableau is going to do in terms of visualization versus you drawing it out on hand or even doing it in Excel.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That makes
Same
sense.
idea. It's cleaning, it's fixing it, but scale and what it's doing is way different.
Mm. Makes sense. Okay. So, um, okay, let's suppose you're a company that's trying to make this decision, right? Like, do I go with this managed solution? Do I go internally or do I hire consultants? What what are some questions they need to consider before making that decision? Because I'm assuming, and you played out scenarios where it doesn't work for everybody, right? So what are things that you have to think about to then see what route you want to go?
Yeah, good. I will try to think of this on the spot. But I'll start with some of the ones I already mentioned, just so that those are clearly spelled out if I'm going through the process. Again, is analytics what I sell? Because if it is, I probably do want to have more control and build that out myself. Number two, do I is my industry highly regulated in where it's not safe and or allowed to put it into someone else's environment, right? Then I maybe want more control and I want to build that out so that I own the risk for that. Um, Another question to evaluate is, do I have someone to lead the analytics? If we build this out, do I have someone who is knowledgeable, who can lead this out, and confidence that my team will research and choose the right tool, uh, all the tools, hire the right people to work those tools and build everything out.
Okay, so let's
Yeah,
suppose I don't have somebody to lead. Can I not then outsource that to your team to lead
you
us?
could, you could, yeah, absolutely. But I'm you talked about this concern of like maybe I want more control versus putting it into an environment, right? That's done for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
Would find it really strange. I've never seen this personally. It for sure probably exists, but if I want to build out my own environment and team because I think I can do it better myself and want to have control over that, but I'm willing to turn the leadership of that over to somebody else and have that outsourced, that would be a really weird arrangement,
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I
right?
think you
Yeah.
have to you have to accept that, I'm not going
Yeah.
to own this and the ownership will be with
Yeah.
the managed resource, right?
Yeah. So it's like I either am okay and I trust that these people are the experts. They've got it set up optimally, and I'm going to use that and save time, money, and ache trying to do it myself. Or I want to own that and I'm going to build the whole thing. It would be really weird to be like, I want to build the whole thing, but I'm going to have a consultant who leads it all. Um, and even then, too, right, is like the level of involvement um, and buy-in to the company of if I hire a consultant, and again, there are different consulting companies, there are different things. I've seen a lot. I've been a part of a lot. I've been part of some of the most well-known consulting companies in the world, and even within those companies, I've seen some really strange practices, good ones and strange ones. Um, I I am not a consultant's long-term priority. My business, my data, my people are not a consultant's long-term priority. Um, so bringing that in is hard, I think. Uh, I shouldn't say hard. It's a risk, right? At some point, as any kind of company, you're hoping to bring in a consultant to do a specific thing, and then they leave. Um, with Here you're not bringing on a consulting company. I mean, you are with the managed analytics platform, but you're bringing in a platform. It's not it's not set up to be a one and done and
Right.
leave. Right? We're
Yeah.
setting up something to build something with you together long term, so you never have to worry about this thing. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
different relationship.
Yeah. So let's tie this back in, right? Like in the beginning, we were talking about, why you should not build a data team. But you're saying no, not you're not saying you shouldn't build a data team. You're just saying that like you may not have to do it from scratch and it may not take time. Yeah, you can leverage a solution where you're further along and you can scale faster and get and essentially at the end of the day, why do we build data teams? It's not to have a data team and an infrastructure, it's to solve problems.
No. It's a requirement in
Yeah.
order to get the problem solved. It's a requirement to have make better decisions based on our actual customers and their data and the
Yeah.
insights we want, right?
And so you're enabling that to happen faster.
Faster and on best practices with people who know what
Best
they're talking about.
best practices is also a whole other topic that we could talk about, but that is very important because
Yes.
you and I have probably seen solutions that do not follow those best practices.
Yeah.
And you know, there's it's night and day the difference it could make.
Even something that intends to be set up on best practices. If it's your first time doing it, what is the chance that you're going to get that right? Right?
You're not. I
That's
think back to
tough.
when I started building or using Tableau for data visualization, I think back to my first dashboard I ever built. I'm like, if I went back, I would have done things so much differently. But at that time, I thought it was a great solution.
Yeah. Yeah. And to go back to the your question about the questions I'm asking, I think there's a couple other things that are relevant too. Is what cost am I willing to pay for this? Right? Do I have money right now to go pay at least 500,000 headcount and maybe up to 1 million per year on tools and hours and a team, right?
Yeah.
And hiring. Or do I not have that money, but I still have the need? I still have the need to upgrade the analytics. I don't want to wait to do that, but we don't have the investment to go do that. That's another thing that might lean you in one way. And then the speed, right? Am I okay knowing that we need to upgrade, to have more insight, to be more competitive, to do the thing that our competitor is doing? Am I okay waiting 6 months for a year to really flesh that out and have that happen? Or do I need that to happen faster? Those things change what you're able to do or
Yeah.
what you decide.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now let me bring it back to the barber analogy. Okay, I have my
Yeah.
barber. I sought out my barber myself because I like the way he cuts my hair. If he
Yeah.
moves tomorrow to another city, I can't use that barber anymore, and now I have to start the whole process again and find a new barber locally.
Yeah.
But if that barber shop was set up in a way where I know that they were training everyone the same and have the same level of expertise with best practices that align
Mhm.
with my barber, it doesn't matter if my barber moves, I can just go to the next barber and get the same level of service.
Love it. Perfect analogy. Perfect analogy. Yep. Which
Yeah.
is right that it's just to spell that out for anyone who's not catching, right? There's another inherent risk, right, in hiring your own people, setting up your own thing, is that that person goes and you're in trouble. That's
Oh,
right.
yeah. You have dependent. Yeah, that's true. You're highly dependent on that person.
In fact, a lot of the times, being in consulting, a lot of times that's the initiator for bringing in a consultant is we urgently need to carry over somebody left and everything broken. We need to fix it right now.
Yeah.
And we're willing to pay any price to do that. Right. So yes, you're also being protected against that. You're not reliant on one person anymore. You're not reliant on that guy that doesn't get a raise and then takes off and leaves you stranded.
Yeah,
That's a
no,
good
that's a fair
analogy. Great
point.
analogy.
That's a fair point. Listen, this has been a great conversation. Um, I know you're not local anymore to the United States, right? You've moved?
I am, yeah. We last year moved to France. So
Good. Hopefully it's for the better. And I've been to France once, so Paris. I don't know if that's the area. Is that where you are you close to
We're in
Paris?
Lyon, so we're a little south of Paris, closer to Geneva, Switzerland, in the Alps. Yeah.
Okay, nice, nice. But listen, I know we're not Tableau conferences next week. I'm not gonna see you there. I usually do run into
I know
you.
I'm so sad, so jealous of everybody that's going to be there.
One of the best parts about going to the conference is the people you meet, right? Because this is the one time of year, like I'm gonna meet everyone that I usually interact with, but not in person.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the point for anyone. It could take different reasonings. Like, I just actually want to learn something and go do a training, a bunch of trainings. But the in-person meeting the teacher and building a relationship and going talking to them after and getting it's everything. Relationships are, I think, and the in-personness is why people go to the event. And
For sure.
the more you go and the more you build those relationships, then it becomes more and more powerful reason to go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's hope. I mean, maybe not this year, but maybe in the future
Yeah,
we'll
next
we'll meet
year.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate it. Thanks for chatting. It's been a lot of fun.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a rating or review. It really helps more data nerds discover the show. You can find all episodes, plus exclusive merch like the Data Nerd hat, and more at thedatanerdpodcast.com. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and embrace your inner data nerd.